Hi, it's Leslie with Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and today we're making these adorable raccoon cookies. Let's get started. You're going to want to trace your raccoon pattern onto your cookie. I used a mini projector, but you can also use tissue paper to trace the design and then put the tissue paper on the cookie and trace the design again, and the design will show through. Be sure to use an edible marker. Okay, so I started by putting a squiggle of light gray icing in the stripes of the tail, and then I outlined and filled in the belly with white icing. My icing is thicker, so I'm going to have to work with it with my scribe to kind of wiggle it and get it to settle down into place. Next, you're going to want to outline and flood in about 2/3 to 3/4 of the foot and fill it in with light gray icing, and then immediately outline an area for the little pad of the foot with black icing and fill that in. This is a wet on wet effect and it will blend together as one. Now going back to the tail, outline and flood in the light gray stripes. You can use your scribe or your toothpick to shape the stripes and get the icing down into the corners. I piped too big of an area for this first stripe, so I got a flat brush and I got it damp with water and brushed almost all of the water off on a paper towel, and I used that damp paintbrush to shape the stripe. While we wait for the stripes of the tail to crust over, let's go ahead and pipe the black eye on the right side. So outline the eye and fill it in with your black royal icing. You're going to immediately want to take your white icing and add a big dot in the center with white, and then you're going to put another dot of black icing in the middle of that white center. Now again, because my icing is thick, I'm having to use a scribe to settle it down. Do the same thing for the other eye. When using your scribe to settle down the white icing, be sure to just poke in an up and down motion so that you don't blend the two colors and mix them together. Now going back to the light gray icing, let's outline the head. Make sure that you go slow and just follow the outside edge of the cookie and then along the inside. If you don't get the line where you want it, you can use the damp paintbrush to kind of move your line over. Now let's flood in that outlined area. When your icing is thicker, it's very helpful to kind of wiggle your bag as you're piping, and that way it will help smooth the icing out as you're piping it. Let this dry for at least 5 or 10 minutes until the icing begins to crust over. Now using the black icing, put a stripe of icing in the tail and a stripe around the eyes. This is just to help prevent craters later. Then put a dot of icing for the center of each ear. Now let's go back to the left foot and pipe in about 2/3 to 3/4 of the foot with light gray and immediately add a bubble of black in the middle, just like we did on the right foot. Moving back to the raccoon's head, take your white icing and outline the light gray icing with a white stripe. Go ahead and pipe it 2 or 3 times to make it a little bit thicker. And again, because I'm using thick icing, I'm going to have to use my scribe to settle the icing down and get it into shape. If you did not put your white stripe where you want it, you can again get a paintbrush very slightly damp, wipe most of the water on a paper towel, and use your paintbrush to push it into shape. But don't worry about it too much because we're going to pipe the black and do a wet on wet effect here. So immediately take your black icing and fill in around the rest of the eye, going right over that stripe of black icing we put in that area before to help prevent craters. And as always, use your scribe to help push the icing into the corners or to shape it as needed. Now do the exact same thing to the other eye. Pipe a white stripe, shape it with your scribe or your paintbrush, and then immediately take your black icing and pipe right over the top of the black stripe we put in that area before and fill in the rest of the area around the eye. Moving back to the tail, go ahead and fill in the black stripes, piping right over that squiggle of black we left in the tail before. And taking your most used tool, your scribe or your toothpick, shape the icing and pop any air bubbles and smooth it out into the corners. There's so many little parts on this cute guy. So going back to the ears, take the light gray icing and outline the outside of the ears and use your scribe or your toothpick to settle the icing down as needed. Now I accidentally piped that first toe off camera a little while ago, so moving on to the other 2 toes on the right foot, pipe a big ball of gray icing and then immediately put your black icing right into there and pipe another dot. While we let those toes dry a little bit, put a big circle of icing in the center of the nose, but don't go all the way to the edges. Do the same thing with the arms and do not go all the way to the edges. We're going to over pipe those areas later because we want them to be really puffy. Let the icing for the arms and the nose crust over for about 5 or 10 minutes. Now let's pipe a big oversized dot for the center toe on the left foot and immediately put a black dot in the middle of that like we did on the other side. While we let that toe crust over, we can go ahead and over pipe the arm on the right side. Fill it in with a lot of icing, overfill it, and then shape it with your scribe. Do the same thing for the left arm, being careful not to run into that toe that we just piped that's still drying. Let the arms dry for about 10 minutes and then we can over pipe the nose. And let's finish those cute toes the same way we did before. Put down 2 big oversized light gray dots and then black dots in the middle. I'm using a very slightly damp paintbrush to kind of clean up my area of my dot and shape the toe how I want it. Now I should have probably done this earlier. I need to go back and add the light gray underneath the belly and kind of underneath the paws. Now we just need to add a black nose and this cute little guy is done. I just fell in love with these raccoons and I hope that you did too. You can go back after he's completely dry and add a little line for his mouth if you want, and then I also added some hair at the top. They're just so stinking cute. I hope you had fun watching this video. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.